Have you ever stopped to wonder if God has already shown you the person meant for you, but you just didn't recognize it? If you are a chosen one, your life is already full of connections, some fleeting, some confusing, and some that feel promising at first but eventually fade away. It's easy to mistake infatuation, attraction, or even loneliness for love. Many people enter relationships only to discover later that the person they thought was the one was actually a distraction pulling them further from their divine purpose. But here's the truth. When God steps into the picture, things are very different. Unlike temporary connections that leave you drained or confused, a God-ordained relationship brings clarity, growth, and peace. It doesn't just feel good for a season. It transforms your life in ways that align with your spiritual journey. The signs may not always be loud or dramatic. Sometimes they're subtle, a steady peace, a sense of security, or a joy that doesn't make sense to the world. Other times, they're more obvious, like answered prayers or divine confirmations that arrive exactly when you need reassurance. This video isn't about ordinary relationships. It's about uncovering the spiritual markers that reveal when heaven is moving in your love life. Because God doesn't play games with your heart. He doesn't send someone to confuse you, mislead you, or break you down. His blessings are not wrapped in manipulation or chaos. Instead, they carry His fingerprints: peace, love, patience, humility, and alignment. But here's the challenge: many people miss these signs because they're too busy chasing after what looks good on the outside. They overlook red flags, settle for less, or confuse temporary feelings with lasting purpose. But you, as a chosen one, is different. You are selected by divine for some greater purpose in life. That's why today, we're diving into the unmistakable signs that God has truly sent the right person into your life, in the life of a chosen one. If you've ever asked yourself, how will I know when it's really from God? Then you're in the right place. And before we go further, let me say this. If this message feels like it's arriving in your life at the perfect time, don't ignore it. Type, "I am ready" in the comments. That small act is more than just typing words. It's a declaration of faith, an invitation for divine alignment, and a way of saying, "Lord, I'm ready for what you have prepared for me." Now, let's look at one of the most undeniable signs from the God. When God sends the right person into your life, one of the clearest signs is that they don't just love you, they love God first. And because of that, their love for you becomes an extension of something higher, purer, and more enduring than human attraction alone. Think about it. The wrong person will often distract you from your faith. They may encourage you to cut corners spiritually, skip prayer, or compromise your convictions. Over time, you'll notice that your relationship with God weakens. But the right person has the opposite effect. They spark something in you that makes you want to grow closer to God, not further away. This doesn't mean they'll be perfect or that they'll have all the answers. What it means is that their presence in your life consistently pushes you towards spiritual maturity. Instead of pulling you away from church, they'll sit beside you and worship. Instead of brushing off prayer as unnecessary, they'll encourage you to pray together over meals, before big decisions, and in times of stress. Instead of celebrating only your worldly achievements, they'll remind you to give thanks to God for every blessing. Chosen ones. In a world where many relationships are built on shallow foundations, a God-centered relationship stands out. Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, "A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken." When the third strand in your relationship is God, your bond has divine reinforcement. Even when you face trials, and every couple does, you'll notice that faith becomes your anchor. Arguments won't drive you apart, but will drive you both to prayer. Hard seasons won't crush you, but will refine you. The right person will also challenge chosen ones in the best ways. They'll push them to read scripture more, trust God more, and walk boldly in your calling. They won't let them shrink into fear or doubt, because they see the spiritual potential inside you, even when you can't see it yourself. Their love isn't about keeping them comfortable, but about helping them grow closer to God's vision for your life. Here's the key difference. A God-sent partner inspires you to love God more deeply because their own love flows from Him. It's not just romance, it's discipleship, encouragement, and accountability wrapped into companionship. With the wrong person, you'll feel spiritually dry. With the right one, you'll feel spiritually alive. If you're in a relationship right now, and you notice that your prayer life has become stronger, your faith is more consistent, and your heart is more aligned with God, pay attention. That's not an accident. That's a sign of divine alignment. Chosen ones. Respect might sound like a simple word, but in the context of a God-ordained relationship, it carries extraordinary weight. The world often teaches love without respect, but God-designed love cannot exist without it. Respect means recognizing that your partner is not just a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife. It means seeing them first as a child of God, someone created in His image, someone entrusted to your care. The wrong person might show you respect only when things are easy. They might belittle you in arguments, ignore your boundaries, or use manipulation to get their way. Their respect is conditional, given when they're happy, withdrawn when they're not. But with the right person, respect is not a mood, it's a constant. It doesn't disappear when emotions run high, and it doesn't depend on circumstances. It flows naturally because it's rooted in their reverence for God, not just their feelings for you. Ephesians 5:21 tells us to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. In a God-centered relationship, mutual respect becomes the foundation. You don't have to beg to be heard or fight to be valued. The right person will listen to your opinions with sincerity, honor your convictions, and support your decisions, even if they don't always agree. They won't cross your boundaries. Instead, they'll help you protect them. True respect shows itself in small, everyday ways. It's in the way they speak about you when you're not around. It's in how they handle disagreements without insults, without tearing you down. It's in the way they support your dreams and celebrate your individuality rather than trying to control or diminish you. Respect also shows in how they guard your reputation. A God-sent partner doesn't expose your flaws to the world. They cover them with love and handle them with care. And here's something powerful. Respect creates the soil where trust can grow. Without it, love feels shaky, uncertain, and fragile. With it, love becomes steady, secure, and unshakable. The wrong person might make you feel small, silenced, or unseen, but the right person makes you feel heard, valued, and cherished. This kind of respect isn't about elevating one person above the other. It's about walking side by side as equals, each honoring the divine image within the other. And when respect flows freely, love grows deeper, trust becomes stronger, and the relationship reflects God's heart in a tangible way. So if you're with someone who consistently honors your voice, your boundaries, and your worth, recognize it for what it is, one of the clearest signs that God's hand is guiding your relationship. One of the most overlooked signs that God has sent you the right person is patience. In today's world, many people confuse urgency with love. They think if someone is truly interested, they'll push for quick commitments, immediate results, or instant gratification. But God's timing doesn't work that way, and neither does a relationship built on His foundation. The right person won't pressure you into decisions you're not ready for. Instead, they'll demonstrate patience, the kind that trusts God's process and respects the journey. Patience is not about passivity or lack of commitment. It's about understanding that real love takes time to grow, and that rushing God's plan often leads to heartbreak. The wrong person might demand answers, force timelines, or get frustrated when things don't move as fast as they'd like. They may even make you feel guilty for not meeting their expectations. But the right person will walk beside you, not push you ahead. They'll understand that true intimacy, whether emotional, spiritual, or physical, develops through trust, not pressure. This kind of patience is deeply spiritual for chosen ones. Galatians 5:22 lists patience as one of the fruits of the Spirit, evidence that God is at work in a person's life. If your partner demonstrates patience in waiting for God's timing, not just in your relationship, but in life in general, it's a sign of maturity and faith. They're showing you that they value the long-term covenant more than short-term satisfaction. Patience also allows space for preparation. It gives you both time to grow individually before joining your lives together. The right person doesn't fear waiting because they know the wait isn't wasted. Instead, it's shaping both of you for the covenant you're about to step into. It's in this waiting that you learn endurance, faith, and the beauty of trusting God's hand at work. And here's something even deeper. Patience is a reflection of love. 1 Corinthians 13:4 begins with, "Love is patient." When someone truly loves you, they don't rush you into places you're not prepared for. They allow you to move forward at a pace that keeps God at the center. So, if you're with someone who shows you grace in the waiting, who doesn't complain about the process, but instead embraces it, recognize it as a sign of divine alignment. Because patience in love is not just about waiting for the right time. It's about proving that the love is rooted in God, who is never late, but always on time. Another unmistakable sign of a God-sent relationship is the way your spirit and emotions are protected. Anyone can protect your physical body, but it takes someone truly connected to God to protect your inner world, your heart, your mind, and your spirit. The wrong person will often play games with your emotions. They'll tear you down with words, use manipulation to control you, or make you feel unsafe to express your true feelings. Over time, this erodes your self-worth and leaves you questioning your value. But the right person, sent by God, will create an environment where your spirit feels safe. Their words build rather than destroy. Their actions encourage rather than discourage. Their presence brings comfort rather than fear. This doesn't mean they'll never make mistakes, but it does mean they're intentional about protecting your well-being. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." A God-sent partner takes that verse seriously, not only for themselves, but also for you. They won't exploit your vulnerabilities or mock your weaknesses. Instead, they'll guard your heart as if it were their own. Emotional protection looks like consistency for most of the chosen ones. It's knowing they won't abandon you in moments of struggle. It's hearing them speak words of life instead of insults when disagreements arise. It's seeing them handle your emotions with gentleness instead of carelessness. And on a spiritual level, it's knowing they'll pray for you, cover you in intercession, and protect your walk with God. This kind of protection is powerful because it mirrors Christ's relationship with the church. Just as Christ lays down his life to protect and nurture his bride, a God-sent partner reflects that same spirit of sacrificial care. They're not there to drain you, but to shield you, encourage you, and walk with you as you both grow in faith. If you find yourself with someone who makes you feel spiritually uplifted, emotionally secure, and deeply valued, you're not just experiencing love, you're experiencing one of the clearest signs that God is involved. Because true protection doesn't come from control or dominance. It comes from love, humility, and a desire to see the other person flourish. Chosen ones. In a world obsessed with pride and self-promotion, Humility is one of the rarest qualities in relationships, yet it is one of the strongest indicators of a God-ordained partner. Why? Because love rooted in humility reflects the very heart of Christ. Pride says, "I'm always right." Humility says, "I'm willing to listen." Pride refuses to admit mistakes. Humility apologizes quickly and sincerely. Pride demands to be served. Humility seeks to serve first. When you're with someone who demonstrates humility and love, you're with someone who understands that relationships aren't about winning arguments or proving superiority. They're about honoring one another. Philippians 2:3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility value others above yourselves." A God-sent partner lives by this principle. They don't compete with you or diminish your voice. Instead, they elevate you, support you, and acknowledge when they're wrong. They know that humility doesn't weaken love, it strengthens it. The wrong person will let pride destroy the connection. Arguments will drag on endlessly because no one wants to back down. Mistakes will never be admitted. Apologies will never be made. And the relationship will suffocate under the weight of ego. But with the right person, humility opens the door for grace. Disagreements don't turn into wars. They turn into opportunities for growth. Apologies aren't delayed. They're offered freely. Forgiveness flows naturally because humility makes room for mercy. Humility also shows up in how they treat your dreams, goals, and calling. A prideful partner will compete with you, trying to outshine or overshadow your purpose. A humble partner will celebrate you, cheer for you, and remind you that your victory is their victory too. They understand that love is not a competition but a partnership. The presence of humility is often quiet but powerful. It's in the way they listen attentively when you speak. It's in the way they celebrate your successes without jealousy. It's in the way they choose peace over being right. And most importantly, it's in the way they imitate Christ, who humbled himself even to the point of sacrifice. If your partner consistently shows humility, don't overlook it. It may be one of the clearest signs that God has placed them in your life. Because humility in love isn't weakness, it's strength under control, guided by the Spirit. Another sign that God has sent you the right person is the way they encourage you to grow, even when it's uncomfortable. The wrong person may prefer to keep you stagnant. They don't challenge you because they fear losing control. They want you to stay the same because growth threatens the security of a shallow connection. But the right person, a God-sent partner, will lovingly push you toward becoming the best version of yourself. This doesn't mean they'll criticize or nag. Growth in love isn't about tearing down. It's about building up. It's about recognizing potential in you that you may not even see and encouraging you to step into it. Maybe they see leadership in you when you feel timid. Maybe they recognize spiritual gifts in you when you've been too afraid to use them. Maybe they remind you of dreams you once buried and encourage you to pursue them again. That kind of encouragement is a reflection of God's hand. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." The right person won't leave you dull. They'll challenge you to sharpen your skills, deepen your faith, and rise above limitations. Yes, this sometimes means stepping out of your comfort zone. It may mean facing fears, letting go of unhealthy habits, or taking risks that align with God's calling. But through it all, they'll stand beside you, not as a critic, but as a partner. The wrong person often keeps chosen ones trapped in cycles of complacency. They resist growth because growth requires effort. They may discourage your progress out of insecurity or fear. But with the right person, you'll notice that you're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're evolving into the person God created you to be, and they're evolving with you. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of a God-centered relationship. It's not just about comfort, It's about transformation. When you look back months or years later, you'll see how much you've both grown, not in spite of each other, but because of each other. If your partner challenges you to aim higher, to pray deeper, to dream bigger, and to believe in God's plan more fully, pay attention. That's a sign of divine alignment, because the right person doesn't let you stay small. They encourage you to walk boldly in the fullness of your calling. Finally, one of the most powerful signs that God has sent you the right person is the joy they bring into your life. Not just happiness, because happiness can be temporary, but a deep, abiding joy that feels unshakable. Happiness depends on circumstances, a good day at work, a fun trip, a surprise gift. But joy, the kind rooted in God, transcends circumstances. It remains steady even when life isn't perfect. Chosen ones. The wrong person may bring fleeting happiness, but leave you empty when struggles come. The right person, however, brings joy that sustains you through both the highs and the lows. This joy is contagious. It shows up in small, simple moments, laughing together over nothing, feeling peace just by being in their presence, or finding encouragement in the way they speak life into you. It's not about constant excitement, but about steady contentment. Nehemiah 8:10 says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." In a God-sent relationship, this joy becomes the backbone of your strength together. The right person won't drain you emotionally. They'll fill you up. They won't bring heaviness that leaves you weary. They'll bring lightness that lifts your spirit. Even in difficult times, you'll notice that joy remains, because it doesn't come from them alone. It comes from God working through them. This kind of joy also creates resilience. Couples who share divine joy can endure trials without breaking apart. They know how to find laughter in pain, hope in sorrow, and peace in uncertainty. And because their joy is anchored in God, it doesn't fade when life gets hard. If you're with someone who brings you this kind of joy, not just temporary happiness, but deep, soul-level joy, then you're experiencing one of the clearest confirmations of divine alignment. Because when God writes your love story, joy isn't just an occasional visitor. It becomes the soundtrack of your relationship. At the end of the day, love isn't just about butterflies, sweet words, or exciting feelings for chosen ones. It's about alignment with something far greater than ourselves. The truth is, relationships can either draw us closer to God or slowly drift us away from Him. That's why recognizing the signs of a God-sent partner is so important. It's not just about romance. It's about destiny, purpose, and walking in harmony with someone who is meant to journey beside you. Think about it. The right person will not just make you happy, but they'll help you grow. They'll lift you up when you're down, remind you of God's promises when you forget them, and encourage you to keep chasing the purpose you were created for. They won't just say they love you. They'll show it through patience, humility, kindness, and a joy that never fades, even in the storms of life. God doesn't just give chosen ones what they want. He gives them what they need. Sometimes we ask for love in our timing, but He's preparing love in His timing. That's why waiting with faith is just as important as recognizing the signs. If you're still waiting for your person, don't lose heart. Sometimes God delays to prepare both you and your partner, so that when you meet, you're both ready for the blessing of that relationship. Now, let me ask you this. Which of the signs we talked about stood out to you the most? Was it the patience, the humility, the way joy feels different when God is in the center? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down in the comments, because your story or reflection might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this video spoke to you, if it gave you hope, encouragement, or even just a little more clarity about your journey, then I'd love for you to be part of this community. The community of chosen ones, the divinely selected beings So go ahead and hit that like button. It shows that this message mattered to you. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. We're going to keep diving into powerful topics about faith, purpose, and relationships, things that can truly transform the way you live and love. Finally, don't keep this to yourself. If you know someone who's been praying for clarity in their love life or waiting on God's timing, share this video with them. You never know how much a simple message can encourage someone's spirit. So, until next time, keep your heart open, keep your faith strong, and remember, when God sends the right person, it won't just change your relationship, it'll change your entire walk with Him.